This is a person who has written that Indigenous content in curriculum is social engineering and is a fad.
Tonight, an associate of the Alberta Premier is now a curriculum advisor for school kids. Why one group says that's just wrong.
If your heat is too high and you see them brown really fast, you want to just remove the whole pan from the heat for a little while.
And a Yukon woman is taking her bannock business beyond the borders. We find out why. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The 60 Scoop Indigenous Society of Alberta has called on Alberta Premier Jason Kenney to fire a recently hired longtime associate. Chris Champion is now a curriculum advisor for social studies for kindergarten to grade 4 students, but he has a controversial view of Indigenous peoples. APTN's Chris Stewart has that story.
Premier Jason Kenney is once again taking fire for a recent hiring of a longtime political associate. Paul Bunner was hired in May as a speechwriter. Several Indigenous groups called for his resignation or firing soon after. Bunner has written that residential schools were a bogus genocide story. He is still employed. Now, Kenney has hired another associate, Chris Champion. Champion is a social studies expert and is helping develop the curriculum for kindergarten to grade 4 students. On Wednesday, August 19th, Adam North Pagan, the president of the 60 Scoop Indigenous Society, held a press conference with NDP critics to denounce Champion's hiring. Champion has said and written in the past that blanket exercises are brainwashing children, and that inclusion of First Nations perspectives is a fad.
It's very, very appalling that the Premier of the province of Alberta, Jason Kenney, is making these kind of decisions and making these kind of moves. And it's almost like he wants to erase the true history of Canada.
Richard Feehan is the NDP Indigenous Relations critic.
This is a person who has written that Indigenous content in curriculum is social engineering and is a fad. He has called important teaching techniques like the blanket exercise brainwashing. He's questioned the truth of residential school survivors and written about a preoccupation with victimhood.
Feehan says there is no place for Champion's views in elementary schools.
I'm very frustrated that we're here again talking about another one of Jason Kenney's closest advisors, who's intent on erasing the historical truth of genocide in the residential schools in Canada.
Mr. Kenney has made quite an error again, and it's something that I just couldn't sit idly by and not say or do anything about.
Pegan, Feehan, and NDP education critic Sarah Hoffman are asking the Premier to fire both men.
We are calling on Mr. Kenney to fire his speechwriter effective immediately, Paul Bunner, and remove Mr. Champion from the curriculum review. And we would kind of see that as a gesture on Mr. Kenney's part to start rebuilding that reconciliation with the Indigenous people and rebuilding that trust.
In a statement to APTN, the Premier's office says that, of course, we believe any future curricula must include First Nations, Indigenous, and Métis perspectives. Their views and unique education needs have been captured in the curriculum development work done to date. It goes on to say, Dr. Champion is just one of over 300 people working on designing Alberta's new curriculum. To suggest that he and he alone holds the pen to this endeavor is simply not true. The Premier's office did not reply when asked if they intended to remove Bunner and Champion from their position. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
A woman from the James Smith Cree Nation went to the emergency room in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan because she thought she broke her ankle. She ended up with severe burns on her arm and believes she was misdiagnosed. Now the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is calling for a thorough investigation into what happened. APTN's Priscilla Wolf has the story and a warning some viewers may find the images in this piece disturbing.
At around midnight on June 30th, Jeanette Sanderson went to the Prince Albert emergency room thinking her ankle was broken. Sanderson says a nurse at the Victoria Hospital came and administered an injection into her IV, which she does not know the contents of.
As soon as that syringe went in, there was a little bit going in. I started burning right away, and she said, "It'll go away." So I started crying. I said, "It's not going away." I said, my whole hand is burning." She said, "Just wait, I'm just about done," she said. I said, no, stop, I told her. I told her to stop like 3 or 4 times, and she didn't listen. She said, "Oh, it'll go away, your pain will go away." And this is the worst pain I ever had.
Sanderson says the injection led to severe disfiguring burns on her body. Sanderson is speaking out because she doesn't want any other First Nations patients to have to experience what she went through. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is backing her up.
What this lady went through is torture. They tortured this poor lady to the point where she was bearing the pain 24/7. And we will do all we can as a federation, legally, politically, technically, to right the wrong and to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Vice Chief David Pratt also wants the federal government to support the FSIN in developing an ombudsman office to do an investigation. The Federation is also supporting the Prince Albert Grand Council to open its own hospital.
We're pushing for the Grand Council as well for their hospital. If the federal government is serious about reconciliation, then we need to be able to set up our own systems because the current systems are failing our people.
APTN contacted the Saskatchewan Health Authority to comment on the incident. They stated in an email, Saskatchewan Health Authority operational leaders are aware of this situation, and the SHA has already been in contact with the patient and family. An investigation about the quality of life concerns is ongoing. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Meanwhile, the search for 16-year-old Tammy Nataway continues in northern Manitoba. It's been a month since the teen was last seen in Garden Hill First Nation. Now RCMP are making a public plea for information on her disappearance. Brittany Hobson has more in this story.
Despite extensive search efforts, RCMP and community members have not been able to locate 16-year-old Tammy Nataway, who was last seen on July 20th in the northern community of Garden Hill First Nation. Today, Sergeant Paul Maneg put out a call for tips.
Right now, we're treating this as a missing person investigation. We don't believe any foul play is involved. We're hoping we get information that will lead to her being found safely.
Garden Hill is one of the 4 communities that make up the Island Lake region. In the summer, it is only accessible by air. For this reason, RCMP believe Nataway is still in the area.
Someone must know where she is or where she went. We need them to come forward and help.
Door-to-door searches were conducted in the community and in Wasagamak First Nation. RCMP have also assisted in other searches.
After conducting a ground search in Garden Hill, you have a territory that is vast, with varying degrees of dense brush, tall grasses, of a lot of waterways. It's a very challenging territory for searchers.
Community members have formed their own searches. Mark Barkman is Director of Operations for Garden Hill. He says when news hit Nataway was missing, they took to social media.
At first, we use the Facebook and also our local radio station to, if you have any more information regarding her or her, to call home.
Shortly after, volunteers began ground and waterway searches. They've been doing this daily and will continue until the teen is found.
We are not going to give up. We will continue and bring home Tammy Nataway.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Blockades in Caledonia were coming down today. Details coming up after the break. Here's a look at your Friday weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Sunny and 23 for St. John's, 24 in Halifax, 11 with rain in Nain, showers and 15 for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, showers and 24 in Montreal, 19 with rain for Chibougamau. 28 and rain for Toronto, showers and 23 in Ottawa. A rainy day and 25 above for Thunder Bay and Sioux Lookout. Showers and 11 for Churchill, 22 with rain for Norway House and God's Lake, 30 with rain in Winnipeg, 26 and showers in Dauphin. Rain and 29 for Regina, 22 with rain for North Battleford, 22 with showers in Buffalo Narrows, sunny, and 17 for Stony Rapids. Welcome back. Things took an interesting turn in Caledonia, Ontario today, where land defenders and police may be closer than ever to a peaceful resolution. APTN's Brett Forster explains.
Things opened up in Caledonia today. Metal crunched, tires flew as barricades came down. After pressure from police and a community meeting last night, people from 6 nations decided to open the roads. Jonathan Wabagwan came to show solidarity.
Us down there, that's not First Nation territory, Ojibwe territory, we support it, we're here, and we're going to keep on taking that back, no matter what.
Ontario Provincial Police said the roads will need to be inspected and repaired before they fully reopen. The barricades were set up by 6 Nations people in response to the police raid of 1492 Landback Lane 2 weeks ago. Skylar Williams has been at the camp for over a month.
It is a sign of good faith on our side to be able to say, not only Caledonia, but our community as well needs to be able to have use of our roadways. And so we want, our intention has never been to hinder anybody's free use of the roads. That was done as a reaction to police violence.
Federal ministers Carolyn Bennett and Mark Miller agreed yesterday to come to the table to discuss ongoing land issues. A spokesperson for Bennett confirmed this, but there's still no timeline yet. Haldimand County Mayor Ken Hewitt drew a hard line in the sand on the topic of Mackenzie Meadows. Hewitt has called for police to enforce injunctions that would remove people from the camp.
As far as the land is concerned, there is a claim, underlying claim. It's always been there. And when that gets resolved, it's still not going to result in the transfer of this particular development or any other land that's already owned by third party.
While Hewitt was adamant about the land issues, people from 6 Nations disagreed. So while barricades came down, in part today, construction at the camp by land defenders continues. Brett Forster, APTN National News, Caledonia.
Still in 6 Nations territory. On Tuesday morning, police and firefighters responded to a fire at elected Chief Mark Hill's home. 6 Nations police are now confirming that the incident is an active arson investigation. They say police have released the scene but are continuing to investigate. The Anishinaabe community of Picogan is the latest to join forces with the Innu and Adikamekw nations to vehemently oppose a major Hydro-Quebec development project that aims to boost energy exchange with the northern United States. The planned Appalachia's main interconnection line would span approximately 100 kilometers from Thetford Mines to the Quebec-Maine border. The communities of Pisameet and Wimotashe have already demanded involvement in Hydro-Quebec negotiations. During public hearings this week, a spokesperson for the group said more than 30% of hydro development is carried out on territory protected by ancestral rights. They say development is disrupting the relationship with the land and causing socio-economic problems.
Notre devoir de mémoire envers nos ancêtres est l'obligation morale qui nous incombe de redonner l'espoir à nos enfants, ne permettre plus aux Pessamil, Wimotashe et Rino d'accepter les décisions préjudiciables du gouvernement du Québec et d'Hydro-Québec.
The organization representing friendship centers in Ontario says a new relationship is being cultivated that will improve quality of life for urban Indigenous communities. A declaration of commitment was signed by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Ontario Federation of Indigenous Friendship Centres. It is an open agreement between 6 municipalities in the province, with 5 more in the works, including Ottawa. Ontario Friendship Centre's Jennifer Dockstader says the new agreement will give Indigenous people a voice in municipal services and programs.
So being involved in the dialogue and being involved with policy decisions and actually making changes and bringing an Indigenous voice to the collective body is the potential of what can be created across the province of Ontario. It's also a model for how actually to communicate with Indigenous people and fold us into the body politic in terms of decision making and in terms of inclusion.
An Anishinaabe family from Penemotang, 200 kilometers north of Winnipeg, has won a decade-long human rights battle against the Manitoba government. An adjudicator ruled Manitoba discriminated against the disabled teen and his mother in denying them access to services that non-Indigenous people in Manitoba receive. Melissa Ridgen explains.
A Manitoba human rights adjudicator has awarded $42,000 to Dewey Pruden, who suffers from a severe neurological disorder, and his mother, Harriet. It was short of the $400,000 sought when the complaint was filed back in 2010. While the adjudicator ruled this week that the family was discriminated against, he stopped short of saying the government's policies amount to systemic discrimination. In a statement, Harriet Pruden, who is a longtime advocate for Jordan's principle, said, "We appreciate that the board recognized the experience of discrimination against our son Dewey and our family. However, we're saddened that the discrimination against other First Nation children with disabilities was not acknowledged. Manitoba has 45 days to pay. A separate human rights complaint continues against the federal government." Melissa Ridgen, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Students in the Yukon are the first to head back to school. More on what that looked like coming up after the break. Here's a look at the rest of your Friday weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. Sunny and 20 for high level, 23 in Fort McMurray, 31 under the sun in Medicine Hat, 30 for Lethbridge, 21 with showers in Vancouver, 28 and rain in Kamloops. Prince George has a high of 18 with showers, 16 and rain for Dease Lake, 19 in Old Crow, 16 for Whitehorse and Watson Lake, 17 in Yellowknife, 21 in Norman Wells. 8 above in Sax Harbor, 17 for Pulatuck and Colville Lake, 10 in Baker Lake, 9 in Cambridge Bay. 0 with a chance of snow in Resolute, 8 in Clyde River. Welcome back. All eyes are on Yukon classrooms today. Students in that territory are the first in Canada to head back to school. Several new measures are in place for schools across Yukon. Students are being asked not to rely on school buses if they don't have to, in order to allow for more spacing. Individual schools are deciding whether masks will be mandatory, with some saying physical distancing will be enough. If a child gets sick at school, they will be isolated and taken home by their parents, only returning when they no longer have symptoms. A handful of Indigenous entrepreneurs have been chosen to take part in a new pilot program that will help them break into the Northwest market. APTN's Sarah Connor spoke with the program's only Yukon participant to see how she's getting ready for the expansion of her business.
If your heat is too high and you see them brown really fast, you want to just remove the whole pan from the heat for a little while.
Teresa Ward is known for her bannock mix, and soon her product will be on the shelves in the Northwest United States. Ward is the grandmother behind Grandma Teresa's Yukon Bannock, a ready-to-make bannock mix sold in stores across the Yukon. She's been chosen to participate in a new pilot project run by the Trade Commissioner offices of British Columbia, Yukon, and Seattle. Along with 5 other Indigenous-owned small companies, the Trade Commissioners will help Ward export her mix into the U.S. Northwest market. Ward is the only participant chosen from the Yukon.
I'm pretty excited. You know, I'm really happy that they selected somebody, First Nations, going to from the Yukon and going to be doing this great big project. I don't know where it's going to take me, but it sounds pretty overwhelming.
Ward is a recent graduate of Yukon Struck Startup Bootcamp, a program that helps early-stage entrepreneurs develop and strategize their business ideas. Ward says the camp was instrumental in helping her get her product noticed by the Trade Commissioner of Canada.
I couldn't really understand a lot of the business language, so I'm like, pitch deck, margins, you know, profit margins, so it was really interesting just to do that, so I had to do a lot of Googling myself and self-learning.
Originally from Tlingit First Nation, Ward is eager to showcase her product, something she says needs more representation in the mainstream market.
So I think it's really nice to start showcasing our culture, and to be able to explore and get it out to the rest of the world is really awesome.
Ward will soon meet with the Northwestern, American, and Canadian Commissioner offices to discuss more avenues for her product, like ready-made mix with different flavors. Ward says she hopes her success can inspire other First Nations people to be entrepreneurs and to go into business for themselves.
Go to the boot camp, go to the Yukon Struck boot camp, pick up as much training place as you can, and just feel out people, go to the different stores, you know, do a survey, get yourself a little survey, so find out who your target audience is. Yeah, so go get her.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Haines Junction.
I think we know who her target audience is right here. That's your APTN National News for this Thursday. For the very latest, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.